When John Sims finally forced the rusted metal hatch open in his backyard, he felt a sudden rush of cold air rise from the darkness below. For a moment, he simply stood there, staring. Because instead of dirt, pipes, or old construction debris, he was looking at something far more unsettling. A spiral staircase was disappearing deep into the earth beneath his home, and at that exact moment, one terrifying thought crossed his mind. Who built this? And why? John had only moved into the house a few months earlier. It was supposed to be a simple new beginning. The home sat in a quiet neighborhood in Tucson, Arizona, with wide desert skies, dry, warm air, and a large backyard that had been one of the main reasons he bought the place. Everything about the house felt perfect, almost too perfect. The previous owner had actually been a friend of John's, which made the purchase easy and comfortable. They had known each other for years, and the deal was friendly and straightforward. But right before the paperwork was finalized, his friend said something strange. Something that stayed in John's mind long after the sale was completed. There might be something buried in the backyard, his friend had said. At first, John laughed. He thought it was just a joke, but his friend did not laugh. Instead, he shrugged and added quietly that he had heard rumors about it for years, but had never had the courage to investigate. That was all the explanation John received, and at first, he ignored it. Life moved on normally. John spent his days unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, and settling into the new house. The backyard looked beautiful in the desert sunlight, with patches of dry grass and wide open space. But the thought slowly began to creep into his mind. What was buried out there? The question appeared every time he stepped outside, every time he walked across the yard, and especially at night, when the house became quiet. His imagination started filling the gaps. Maybe an old well, maybe buried construction equipment, maybe something historical, or maybe nothing at all. But curiosity is a powerful thing. And slowly, it began to consume him. Eventually, John reached a point where he could not ignore the mystery any longer. One scorching afternoon, with the Arizona sun blazing overhead, he grabbed a shovel and walked into the backyard. If something was buried there, he was going to find it. At first, the digging felt exciting. Each shovel of dirt felt like it might reveal something incredible. But the Arizona heat was brutal. Temperatures climbed well above 100 degrees, and the desert sun drained his energy quickly. Still, he continued digging. One hole, then another, then another. The neat green backyard slowly turned into a landscape of dirt piles and deep pits. But after hours of work, there was nothing, just dirt. Endless dirt. Days passed. John kept digging, but the result never changed. Nothing. At times, he wondered if his friend had simply repeated an old rumor that had no truth behind it. Maybe the story had grown over time until no one remembered where it started. Maybe there was never anything buried there at all. Frustration began to replace excitement. One part of John wanted to give up completely, but another part whispered something different. What if he was digging in the wrong place? What if the real discovery was just a few feet away? That thought kept him going. Still, after nearly a week of exhausting work, John realized something important. Random digging would not solve this mystery. If something had truly been built under the yard, there would likely be records somewhere. So he decided to investigate the official documents connected to his property. A few days later, John visited the Tucson City Records office. The building was quiet and filled with shelves of old documents. After explaining his situation, an employee helped him locate the original files related to the house. The records were old, the pages were faded and yellow. But after carefully examining the documents, John noticed something interesting. A construction permit dated 1961. The permit mentioned a company called Whitaker Pools. According to the paperwork, the company had built something in the backyard of the property. But the description was confusing. It mentioned a structure located below ground level. John stared at the document. Why would a swimming pool company build something underground? That made no sense, unless it was not a pool at all. Suddenly, the mystery felt much larger than he originally imagined. John decided he needed professional help. He hired a team of specialists equipped with sensitive metal detectors. If something metallic existed beneath the soil, their equipment would find it. The team arrived early one morning and began scanning the yard slowly. For a long time, nothing happened. The machines remained silent. John felt the familiar frustration beginning to return. But then one of the detectors suddenly beeped. Everyone froze. A second detector beeped just moments later. Two separate points in the yard had triggered strong signals. John quickly marked the spots with large chalk X marks. His heart started pounding again. This time he was certain. Something was down there. He grabbed his shovel and began digging again, but this time the process moved much faster. Within a short time his shovel struck something solid. Metal. He cleared away the dirt carefully and revealed the edge of a large circular object. At first he worried it might be an old septic tank, but the shape was wrong. It looked more like a hatch. A heavy metal hatch covered in rust. John cleaned away the remaining dirt and found a handle in the center. He hesitated. Opening something buried underground could be dangerous. There could be toxic gas trapped inside, or mold, or structural collapse. But curiosity pushed him forward. He pulled on the handle. The hatch groaned loudly as it slowly lifted open. John aimed his flashlight into the darkness below, and what he saw made his breath catch in his throat. A spiral staircase descended into the earth. John did not rush down immediately. Years earlier he had worked as a fire captain, and that experience had taught him the dangers of confined spaces and unstable structures. So, instead of acting recklessly, he created a plan. He contacted several close friends and explained what he had discovered. When they arrived and saw the opening themselves, their curiosity quickly turned into excitement. Together they inspected the structure. The staircase looked fragile. The concrete walls showed cracks. Entering the shaft without preparation could be extremely dangerous. So the group began reinforcing the structure. They poured new concrete around the entrance, installed ventilation pipes to ensure fresh air could flow inside, ran electrical cables for lighting, and set up safety equipment. Weeks passed as they carefully prepared the site. Finally, the day arrived. John placed a portable ladder into the opening, took a deep breath, and began climbing down. The darkness swallowed the light as he descended. When his feet finally touched the ground at the bottom, the silence felt overwhelming. The air was cool and still, as if the space had been sealed away for decades. John slowly moved forward, shining his flashlight around the chamber. What he discovered shocked him. The structure was not a small underground room. It was an entire underground complex. Tunnels stretched beneath the property. Several large chambers connected to one another. One massive dome-shaped room stood in the center, yet there was almost nothing inside. No furniture, no equipment, just empty walls and concrete surfaces. Still, the design told a clear story. This was not a pool. It was a bunker. A nuclear bunker. The structure had been built during the early 1960s, one of the most tense periods in modern history. During the Cold War, the threat of nuclear war between the United States and the Soviet Union felt very real. Families across the country began building underground shelters where they hoped to survive a nuclear attack. Even companies that normally built swimming pools started offering bunker construction services. Whitaker Pools was one of those companies. The structure under John's backyard had been one of their projects, and Tucson had been an important location during that era. At one point, the region contained 18 massive missile silos, each capable of launching nuclear weapons powerful enough to destroy vast areas of land. For years, those weapons remained ready for launch. Thankfully, that war never came. But the shelters remained buried underground, forgotten, until John Sims uncovered one. Realizing the historical significance of the discovery, John decided to share it online. He posted photos and videos of the bunker on a popular internet forum. Within hours, the story went viral. Thousands of people reacted. Many residents of Tucson responded with surprising messages of their own. Several revealed that their homes also had hidden bunkers built during the Cold War. The city had once been filled with them. News outlets soon contacted John. Historians became interested. What had started as a simple curiosity in a backyard was now a nationally shared story. But John had an idea that went even further. Instead of hiding the bunker again, he decided to preserve it. He wanted to turn it into a small historical site. A place where people could learn about the Cold War and understand the fears that once shaped everyday life. He launched a crowdfunding campaign to restore the bunker. Donations helped replace the old staircase, install lighting, and reinforce the structure. He even began collecting artifacts from the Cold War era. Geiger counters, emergency supply kits, old radios, objects that once represented survival during the most dangerous period in modern history. Today, the bunker has been completely transformed. Visitors can explore the underground chambers and learn about the era that inspired their construction. For John Sims, the discovery changed his life forever, all because he decided to follow a simple question: what was buried in the backyard? Sometimes the most fascinating pieces of history are not found in museums or ancient ruins. Sometimes they are hidden just beneath the surface, waiting for someone curious enough to